Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting right into a core tactical concept, the double pivot.
Yeah, you hear it mentioned all the time, don't you?
Exactly. But what does it really mean on the pitch? We're going beyond just, two midfielders sitting deep.
Definitely. It's much more nuanced.
We looked at a whole range of coaching analyses, trying to piece together what it is, how it works, the different roles.
And how different teams use it, yeah. Because it's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Not at all. So our aim here is to give you a clearer picture, a real insight into the strategy behind a lot of successful teams.
Consider it a way to understand the why behind certain team shapes and movements you see.
Let's start basic then. What is the double pivot, fundamentally?
Okay, so simplest terms. It's two central midfielders. They
Mhm.
position themselves just in front of the defensive line.
Right, sitting deeper than other midfielders might.
Usually, yeah. And their main job, fundamentally, is defensive screening.
Screening, meaning.
Meaning they protect that space, that crucial zone, right in front of the center backs. Make it hard for opponents to play passes through the middle or find attackers in dangerous spots.
Yeah.
But it's not just defense. They're also really important for starting attacks, for the build-up play.
So two core functions then, defense and build-up.
Exactly. And how they balance those, what specific tasks they do, that really varies. Depends on the coach, the players, lots of things.
Okay, let's unpack that defensive side first. That screen. How does having two players there actually work? What are they doing?
Well, multiple things. First off, just denying space centrally. Think about Spain, maybe in their mid-block.
When they're set up around the halfway line?
Yeah. Their double pivot is focused on closing down those passing lanes right through the center. It forces the opposition wide or makes them attempt riskier passes.
Stops those easy balls into the strikers or attacking midfielders.
Precisely. And that's not just when sitting deeper. Even at high press, like Spain often used too.
Right up the pitch.
Yeah. The double pivot is still crucial. They're positioned to block passes into the opposition's midfielders who are trying to build out. Disrupts their flow early.
So positioning is key. Cutting off options. But what if the ball does get into that central area?
Then it's about direct defensive actions. Winning the ball back.
Tackles, duels.
Exactly. Think Mourinho's teams like Spurs or Chelsea. He often relied heavily on that double pivot for defensive solidity, breaking up play. Hodgberg, for example.
Real ball winners.
Sometimes, yeah. Or players who are great at reading the game, making interceptions, like Huijsen mentioned for Bournemouth, stepping in to cut out passes.
Okay. And what about runners? Players making late runs from midfield.
That's another big one. Tracking those runs, especially from opposition number 8s who like to arrive late in the box.
Oh.
Players like Gray at Leeds, that was a key part of his role. The pivot has to be aware.
Sounds like they need 360-degree vision.
Pretty much. And their positioning isn't always fixed just in front of the defense, Ader.
Oh, how so?
Sometimes one might actually drop into the defensive line.
Into the back line? Seriously?
Yeah, we saw it with Tuchel at PSG and Chelsea or Castro's teams. One pivot drops, creating a temporary back three or even a back five.
Why would they do that?
Helps against, say, high press with three forwards. Creates an extra man at the back for build-up. Or just adds extra defensive cover.
Interesting. So they can adapt the ship.
Very much so. And they might also need to cover wide areas.
Wide. But they're central midfielders.
Yeah, but think if the fullbacks bomb forward really high.
Leave space behind them.
Right. So the pivot player on that side might shift across to cover that space temporarily. Chelsea used this quite a bit.
Okay, so they're plugging gaps wherever needed.
And one more thing, defensively delaying counters.
After your own team loses the ball.
Yeah, that immediate moment.
Yeah.
Especially if you use inverted fullbacks.
Who are tucked inside in midfield.
Exactly. They might be caught high up. The double pivot is often the first line of defense then, trying to slow the counter down, give the rest of the team time to recover shape.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of defensive responsibility. Very adaptable.
It has to be.
So let's switch focus. You said they're also key in build-up play. How does that work?
Well, fundamentally, they're the link. They provide easy, short passing options for the center backs when playing out from the back.
Safe passes to keep possession.
Right. Avoids the defenders having to make risky long passes under pressure. You see this clearly in teams like Motta's Bologna or Ten Hag's United.
Giving options, keeping the ball moving.
And dictating the tempo, too.
Yeah.
Players like Jorginho when he was at Napoli, or Zubimendi at Real Sociedad now. They control the rhythm from deep. slow it down, speed it up, switch the play.
Ah, the distribution part.
Yeah, they're often the ones initiating attacks with their passing range.
Is it mainly short, safe passes in build-up, or more than that?
Oh, much more. It depends on the player and the tactics. Look at Zubimendi again, even when he plays as a single pivot. Sometimes he's great at those clever little passes around pressure. Quick 1-2s, first-time layoffs.
Playing through the lines.
Exactly. Or you have players like Enzo Fernandez who can spray accurate, long diagonal passes to switch the point of attack instantly. Stretches the opposition.
Right. Break the press or open up the other side of the field.
Precisely. And the roles within the pivot during build-up can vary too. It's not always static side by side.
How do you mean?
Well, like under Guardiola at City, you'd often see one pivot, maybe Gundogan, pushing higher, joining the next line of attack.
Right. Almost becoming like an attacking midfielder temporarily.
Sort of, yeah.
Well-
While the other one, maybe Rodri, stays deeper, providing that security and the initial pass. Creates different layers and angles.
So dynamic movement between the two.
Absolutely. And you can create overloads centrally in other ways too. Maybe one pivot inverts, moves into a different channel.
Like a fullback inverting.
Similar principle, yeah. Or sometimes a center back might step forward into that midfield space alongside the pivot.
Pulling defenders out of position.
Potentially, yeah. Or just creating a numerical advantage to pass around the opposition. Fabregas, sometimes playing as a false 9, dropping deep, could create similar effects, freeing up space for midfielders. Motta's Bologna uses center-back progression quite a bit too.
Fascinating how interconnected it all is. Okay, so defense covered, build-up covered. What about those moments in between? The transitions.
Transitions. Arguably where the double pivot is most critical sometimes,
Or is that?
because they're usually centrally positioned when possession changes. So if you lose the ball,
They're right there.
often, yes, ready to counterpress immediately, try and win it back high up the pitch before the opposition can even think about attacking.
That immediate pressure.
Yeah. Systems with inverted fullbacks really rely on this, as the pivots provide that instant central presence. Players like Heisen are known for that aggressive ball recovery too.
And if they can't win it back immediately?
Then it's about preventing the counter, getting into shape quickly, shielding the defense.
Like we talked about with delaying tactics.
Exactly. It's what's often called rest defense, how you set up to defend even while you're attacking. Chelsea and Arsenal are very structured in this. The double pivot is key to that structure.
Makes sense. They need to stop those direct balls forward after a turnover.
Precisely. Shielding passes into the opposition center forward is a massive part of their job in defensive transition. Again, having those bodies centrally is vital.
Okay, so it's clear it's not just about sticking two identical players there. The partnership seems crucial.
Absolutely fundamental. Balance is everything.
What kind of balances work well?
Well, the classic is probably a partnership with complementary skills. You might have one who's primarily a ball winner, strong tackles, breaks up play,
The destroyer?
kind of, yeah. Partnered with maybe a deep-lying playmaker,
Wow.
someone who dictates the passing, controls the tempo, more creative from deep.
Like the Fernandez and Florentino example at Benfica you mentioned.
Exactly, that kind of idea. One provides steel, the other provides craft. Or another common pairing is a deep playmaker with more of a box-to-box midfielder.
Someone who gets forward more.
Yeah, runs into the attacking third, joins attacks, but still has the engine to get back. The deeper pivot then provides the cover for those forward runs. That's often the role of the number 8, alongside a deeper 6.
That makes sense. Covering all bases between them. What if a team really wants to prioritize just being solid defensively?
And you might see two players who are both more naturally holding midfielders.
Two number 6s almost.
Pretty much, yeah. Think about Arsenal sometimes in defensive moments with Partey and Rice, or like we said, Hojbjerg and Mourinho. The focus there is pure defensive stability, winning the ball, protecting the center.
And that presumably frees up the attackers more.
It often does, yeah. Knowing you have that solid shield behind them gives the flair players more license to focus on creating and scoring, less defensive burden.
Okay. And this ties into something we're seeing more and more fullbacks moving inside, inverting. How does that affect the double pivot?
The inverting fullback. It's a huge trend. Essentially, that fullback stepping into midfield can create a temporary double pivot or augment an existing one into maybe a box midfield.
So you might have one natural pivot player and then the inverted fullback alongside them.
Exactly. Or maybe two pivots plus the inverted fullback making a 3, or one pivot plus the fullback. Think Leicester under Maresca or Zinchenko at Arsenal.
And the benefit there?
Primarily, more numbers centrally for build-up play, making it easier to keep possession, And, crucially, better structure to defend counterattacks when the ball is lost, because that inverted fullback is already central.
Right, like we discussed with transition.
Yeah. But it changes things for everyone else. The remaining midfielders, the wingers,
Yeah.
they all have to adjust their positions and roles to make it work.
Yeah.
It's a complex system shift.
It really shows how versatile this double pivot idea is, fitting into different formations too.
Oh, definitely. It's not tied to one shape. You see it in a 4-2-3-1, probably the most common setup, providing that solid base behind the attacking midfielder.
Protects that central channel.
Exactly. In a 4-4-2, one of the central pair might naturally sit a bit deeper anyway, especially out of possession. And in a 3-5-2, they're vital cover in front of those three center backs.
Okay, let's get into some specific scenarios. How does a double pivot help against a team that just sits back, defends deep, a low block?
Right, breaking down a packed defense. The double pivot is key for patience here. They circulate the ball side to side in front of the block.
Trying to shift the defenders.
Yeah, probe for gaps, wait for an opening. They maintain control without forcing things too early. This allows the fullbacks or attacking midfielders time to find space or make runs.
And sometimes one of the pivots might join the attack more directly.
Absolutely. We mentioned Gundogan for City against deep blocks. He'd often push right up into the attacking line, becoming almost an extra forward, while Rodri held the fort. Overloads the defense.
Creates an extra problem for them to deal with.
Precisely.
Okay, flip side. What about facing a really aggressive high press when the opposition is right on top of your defenders?
Playing out under pressure. Here, the double pivot offers those safe, short passing options for the defenders and goalkeeper.
Gives them an out ball.
Exactly. Reduces the chance of losing it dangerously close to your own goal. And sometimes, one pivot might drop really deep, almost between the center backs.
Creating a back three temporarily.
Yeah, or just creating a 3v2 or 3v1 against the opposition's first line of press. Makes it numerically easier to find a free man and pass forward. We've seen teams like Brazil, Spain, Mexico adapt like this.
Smart tactical adjustment.
Needs good awareness and coordination.
And we keep coming back to transitions just to really nail this down their role when the ball turns over.
It's just so crucial. Defensively, it's that immediate counter-press or dropping back to shield. Like Chelsea or Arsenal, prioritize stop the counter at source if possible.
And offensively, when they win it back.
They can launch the counter. Maybe one drives forward or plays a quick forward pass while the other sits and provides the security, the balance, that number 8 role again, or like Leicester's attacking shapes.
That box midfield idea also seems relevant here, right? Having players positioned to attack quickly.
Definitely. Having that structure, often involving a deeper midfielder and maybe an inverted fullback, helps create passing options and space between the opposition lines immediately upon winning the ball back, allows attackers to receive it in dangerous areas faster.
It's amazing, really. Such a, well, seemingly simple setup, two players, but with so many layers and applications.
It really is. And it's constantly evolving, too. Coaches find new wrinkles, new ways to use it depending on their players, the opponent. It's a dynamic part of the game.
So just to pull it all together for everyone listening, we've seen the double pivot. These two central midfielders ahead of the defense are vital defensively.
Providing that shield, blocking passes, tackling, intercepting, tracking runners.
And just as important in starting attacks.
Yeah, offering passing options, controlling tempo, distributing the ball, even joining attacks themselves sometimes.
We've talked about the different jobs they do in defense, build-up, and those crucial transitions, and how the combination of players matters.
Complementary skills, different roles like playmaker, ball winner, box-to-box.
And how things like inverted fullbacks change the dynamic, fitting into various formations like 4-2-3-1 or 3-5-2.
It really is a flexible tactical tool. Helps break down defenses, beat the press, manage transitions. It's foundational.
Which leads us nicely to a final thought for you to take away. Given how pressing tactics keep changing and attacking shapes are always evolving, how do you think the double pivot itself might change in the future?
Yeah, what's the next evolution? Will their roles become even more specialized? Will we see different types of players used there?
Something to think about. So next time you're watching a match, look out for those two deeper central midfielders. See if you can spot what jobs they're doing, how they work together, how they adapt.
You might just appreciate the tactical battle unfolding in a whole new way.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.